Hey y'all, welcome to Fitting and Homemaking. My name is Sarah, and today we are reviewing how I did in the month of January for my no-buy challenge. So at the beginning of this year, I did a video with an overview of how I did for the entirety of my low-buy year in 2025. So go check that out if you haven't watched that, because it's got a little bit more background. But in 2026, for the first 4 months, so January through April, I'm doing a no-buy challenge. So no leisure spending, no unnecessary spending for the first 4 months to build my emergency fund back up to a 6-month emergency fund. So what does that mean? I have a range for what a 6-month emergency fund looks like for me. So the needs-based 6-month emergency fund, so if I'm only looking at necessary expenses, puts me around $18,035.95. If I look at an expenses-based 6-month fund, that puts me at $20,331.92. Like I said, if you want to know how I got to those numbers, you can go watch that previous video. At the beginning of January, I started with $17,150.35 in my savings account. So I mapped out savings goal per each month, right? So in January, I really wanted to get to that needs-based 6-month fund. I was giving myself a real stretch goal, and how I figured out that number and if it was possible or not was I've been budgeting for a very long time now, right? I used to not have a lot of money, so I had to budget because $5 could mean I didn't make my bills, or it could mean I overdrafted my account. So it was really important for me to pay close attention to my budget. So I already had a budget in place, and I'm used to estimating what my costs are going to be for the month. So I used my estimated cost for the month to see how much I could put aside. And my original savings goal for January was $885.60. So that would get me to that minimum needs-based 6-month fund based on the starting amount I had at the beginning of the month. So what does that look like? I'm going to go through what my estimated expenses were and then what my actual expenses ended up being to see how I did for this month. Not just to see if I made my savings goal, but also to see if my estimated and my actual are like close, or if it's just like not even in the realm, right? So, sorry guys, I'm a little bit, as you can tell, this is not my house. So I'm a little bit distracted by other things that are happening here. Apologies. So January estimated versus actual. For my household expenses, I am married if you're new here. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining. My household expenses, my husband and I met in our mid-30s, so a little bit later in life. So we had our own kind of financial independence, separate from each other already. And we decided how we were going to handle joint expenses was to have a household checking account. So each month, anything that is a family-based expense or a household or a joint expense, my husband and I transfer money into the household account to pay those bills, right? But we each have our own separate bills as well. So due to privacy reasons and just because it makes these videos long, I'm not going to go into what our household expenses are by line item. If you want that sort of thing, like kind of go back to the videos from last year. I listed out what was included in there, if not the amounts for each thing. But I estimated my total household expenses, so money that I was going to have to transfer to that joint account to pay our bills, was going to be about $2,600 for the month of January. In actuality, it was $2,652.78. So that was a pretty good estimate, right? I was within $50 when I'm dealing with thousands of dollars, right? So that's not too bad. Gas is another necessary expense, as in gas for my car. I usually estimate around $60 for that each month, and in January I spent $54.86. Then I have a donations and gifts. So this is a personal savings journey that I am on. I don't want to like not buy birthday gifts and not make other people's birthday special in my family. So this month was my husband's birthday, as you may have noticed from the past 2 videos. Go check out the cranberry orange scones. They actually turned out really well. I was so proud of those. And then I also have a party prep video. I'll list all those below. But I allocated $100 towards his birthday gifts and making his birthday special. Sorry, there's people going by in the hall. And I ended up spending $78.65. So that's gifts for me, that's like balloons, flowers, that's gifts for my kids, for my husband. My kids are 2 and 4 years old, so I'm not, you know, like having them use their allowance to buy gifts for dad or whatever. They don't have an allowance, right? So I came under in that category a little bit, which was good that I did not overspend, because sometimes I can get into that habit of, oh, but they'd like this, oh, and they'd like this, and they'd like this. So I definitely reined myself in that category. Now for miscellaneous necessary expenses, I estimated $75 for that category. Usually this is like personal toiletries, like if I run out of moisturizer or something like that. My moisturizer is about $30, and you know, just random things that come up. I vastly underestimated this line item. So normally $75 will do me pretty well. It's actually usually more than I spend in this category if I'm remembering correctly. However, I forgot to account for certain things. Some things I just was unaware of, and some things I should have put in there and I just forgot. But instead of $75, I spent $203.98 in miscellaneous necessary spending. So that's not great. What was that money going towards? So it's January, right? Well, no, it's February now, but this was for the month of January. And I have talked before in my other budget videos about my healthcare expenses going up this year. So I am having more money being taken out of my paycheck because the structure of how we pay for healthcare has changed. It used to be a flat rate before, and now it's based on like salary ranges, which is fine. I mean, if that change makes it more affordable for someone who's making $30,000 a year to be able to afford things, I'm absolutely fine with that, right? I've been that person before. It would have been really nice to have that structure. Now that I'm making more money, I can afford to pay in more, but it does still suck that I'm taking home less money now than I was at the same time last year, because I'm a government worker and our state legislature has not passed a budget. It was due It was due July 2025. And yeah, they determine a budget for 2 years at a time. So the budget should be for July 2025 through June 2027. Still don't have a budget. Probably not even gonna look at the budget until April of this year. So that means that we're just going off our old salary, even though other expenses have gone up. So that stinks, but it is what it is. Once they do figure out a budget, hopefully this year, I will receive back pay. So it's a matter of timing, right? Anyhow, so those healthcare costs coming out of my paycheck went up. What I didn't take into account is that my co-pays were also going up. So if you're new here, you may not know that I have diagnosed ADHD, and with that I also have diagnosed depression and anxiety. Those generally go in hand with having ADHD because just the world is not built for people who have ADHD, right? So it's a little bit more of a struggle. That's fine, right? But because of that, and also because I have PMDD, if you don't know what that means, it's premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's like PMS on steroids, and it's really bad. but I've been diagnosed with that and I'm on hormonal medicine for it, okay? All of this is gonna make sense in a minute. I'm explaining it very poorly. All of those extra costs were medical copays. So I'm in therapy, which is very necessary for me, okay? Therapy, not optional at this stage of my life. So I go to that weekly, and last year, that was free. My copay was $0. This year, it's a $10 copay. So not horrifically expensive, but I just didn't account for it in my budgeting, right? So there's $40 there because we had 4 sessions in January. So $40 for that. Then I had my first dental appointment in literally a decade. Because like I said, I've got ADHD, and the dentist is the one medical care sort of thing that I just do not handle well. It's like overstimulation of all of the senses at the same time, and I hate it. Like, I'm not afraid of it. It's just in the moment doing it is horrible, right? It's fine as soon as it's over. It's fine beforehand, but the in the moment part of it is just really bad, even if it's just a cleaning, right? So I got x-rays and cleanings, and it just didn't occur to me that there would be a copay for that because it was preventative. And a lot of times with my health insurance, if something is preventative, there is no copay. Like, so when I get my annual physical, there is no copay for that last year. Maybe there will be this year. It's probably gonna be a $10 copay. But the copay for getting the cleaning and the x-rays taken was $25. So now I'm up to $65 of medical copays that I was not anticipating, right? And I mentioned before that I had PMDD and I was on hormones for that. Well, the hormones stopped hormoning like they were supposed to. They worked great in the beginning, but my body adjusted towards the end of last year, and I really started having a lot of issues again. So I had an appointment in January. I was finally able to get in to go and talk to them and see about adjusting my medicine. I had that appointment. Medicine's been adjusted. That's great. So this is the one that I should have known about and put in here, and I just didn't. So I knew I had this appointment, and weirdly, apparently, gynecology is a specialty. Don't get me wrong. You have to like go to extra education. You specialize in gynecology, right? You're not just a family practice doctor. You're specializing in gynecology. But what's odd to me is that that is a required part of women's health care. So it seems like it should be treated like a primary care provider would be treated instead of a specialist. But it isn't. So I had to, since it wasn't a preventative visit, I had to pay the specialist like problem visit copay, which is $80. So what was that? There was 40 and 25, so that was 65, and then $80. So that is $145 of medical copays that I did not account for in my budgeting. So that's literally all of the extra expenses. The only other thing that was in my miscellaneous spending was, if you watched that previous video, I broke a mirror, and so it was my job to replace that because that was the family's mirror and I broke it. So that's what the rest of the miscellaneous expenses were. So yeah, realizing that sucked. And that also means that going forward, each month I'll have $40 to $50 in copays, depending on how many weeks are in the month, right? $10 per therapy session going forward for expenses that I need to account for. So that kind of, not only does it change the budgeting, the estimated budgets that I had before going forward, it also kind of changes what my emergency fund needs to be, because now I have these expenses built into each month that I know I'm going to have. So yeah, that's not great. So what was the end result? What was I able to save? The goal savings was $885.60 with all of, I think I had like $10 worth of wiggle room if I hit all of my estimated budget goals, quotas, however you want to call that. Since obviously that didn't happen, I was able to save $757.82. And my emergency fund is in a high yield savings account. And right now I'm gaining about $50 worth of interest on a monthly basis on that account. So the interest I earned for January was $51.57. Originally, I was just going to include that as like the extra or the wiggle room, but I need to count it now with these changes in expenses for me, especially going forward. So I think that's a little under $810 that was added to my savings. So at the beginning of January, I started with $17,150.35 in my emergency fund. Now I have $17,959.74 in there. So that's a shortfall of about $76. Well, not about, it's exactly a shortfall of $76.21 from that needs-based 6-month emergency fund. And guys, I wanted so badly to hit that needs-based 6-month fund amount because I've been doing like either low buy or no buy for a really long time, and having the individual goals each month and having that first goal, even though it's a reach goal, that first goal be the bottom end of an emergency fund so I can like check that off, was going to be so amazing. And it just didn't happen. And unfortunately, I guess, well, however you look at it, the medical expenses, those are things that are not terribly in my control. Like, I can't just stop going to therapy. Like, that would be very bad for me and my family to just stop going to therapy. Not going to that appointment and getting my medication adjusted would be very bad for my family. Going another decade without professional dental care would be very bad for my like long-term health, right? These are, yes, they're choices, but I'm not going to put off health for making kind of this somewhat arbitrary goal, right? So, oh, and I skipped over the biggest part, 0 leisure spending. Like, I actually made the goal of spending 0 money on fun things and experiences in January. I just had free fun. I did all the free fun, and it just did alternative things, right? Plus, we've been getting some weather, some snow and stuff, which is why I'm here, because my family is at home. And yeah, so that helps in not spending the money when things are not open, right? But yeah, so I'm really I'm kind of bummed, which is pretty ridiculous, since I saved over $750 this month to transfer into savings, and then I earned $50 in interest, right? I feel like that's while my disappointment is a valid feeling, I feel like it's also a very privileged feeling of, oh no, I missed this arbitrary goal by like less than $100, even though I saved all this money. But yeah, I think it was just the fact that I put in all the hard work to cut out the fun spending, and then I still didn't make it. If it hadn't been for those medical expenses, I definitely would have made that goal, right? Anyhow, you're not here to hear me complain. So I have a bit of a conundrum now. So I know I'm going to have these healthcare expenses going forward. I also know that next month I will have another dental bill, because when you go a decade without having a professional dental cleaning, they found a small surface level cavity that they're like, wow, good job, you only have 1 cavity. I'm like, it's a cavity, how is that a good job? And they're like, well, you haven't had your teeth professionally cleaned in 10 years, that's a pretty good job. It's like, yeah, but I clean them at home, right? It's not like I'm just not brushing my teeth for 10 years at a time. But yeah, so I have a small cavity that needs to be filled. Luckily, they did tell me how much my part of the payment was going to be, which was lovely of them. It's going to be about $110. So that means not only do I need to adjust February's estimates for my therapy session, so I need to add $40 for therapy, but I'll also need to add $110 for getting my cavity filled, right? Because I know I'm going to have those expenses. So that really puts a dent in how much I'm going to be able to save next month. And more good news, as soon as I got done filming the previous video about how I finished out my low pie year last year, got a text from daycare saying, hey, daycare rates are going up in February. So it'll be $20 extra a week. So that's anywhere, that's what, $80 to $100 a month more expensive for us. So I also need to adjust my budget to take into account daycare cost. So for February now, originally, my original savings goal was going to be $700. That's now going to go down to $400 because the $40 in therapy copays, the $110 in dental bills, the extra, for my part of it, $40 to $50, I know, in household expenses. And I made an executive decision to join a gym because one of my major coping mechanisms for my ADHD throughout my life, I was just diagnosed with ADHD last year because a lot of my systems had just gone to crap since I became a mom. And, you know, I was not handling things well. So how I coped with my ADHD in the past, before I knew I even had it, was just vigorous exercise frequently, right? It helped me get my energy out, but more importantly than that, you know, it made me like less fidgety. More importantly than that, it gave my mind a break. Like I finally had some calmness in my brain. There's kind of like 3 times when I have a calm brain. And that is when I have been vigorously exercising for a good span of time, like during the actual exercising part, right? When I'm hyper-focused on something. So I guess that's just more of having a focused mind, but it's like I don't have 10 bajillion thoughts going on in my head at the same time. And then when I'm passed out sleeping, right? When I'm asleep. I'm sure I have a lot of thoughts then, but I'm unaware of them. So I have been trying since last year to get exercise back in my schedule. And I've completely failed last year. I was doing okay with my step counts, but now that it's cold and icy out, I haven't been doing well. And also just my depression and anxiety this January, surprise, surprise, has gotten pretty bad for, I think, reasons everyone can guess. But yeah, in January, my step count has really gone down. And just all of last year, I was never able to get back into running like I wanted to. I told myself, you can do this on your work from home days, but I was telling myself that with everything, and I can't possibly fit a single other thing into those days because I'm not just doing my actual job work, I'm also filming for you guys on those days. I'm also running errands on those days. I'm usually prepping supper on those days and like doing laundry and cleaning and stuff in between work tasks. So I can't add any single other thing into those days. Like I will go insane. It's not healthy. So I realized the only time that I can exercise is when my kids are asleep. Like when people are sleeping, when my kids and my husband are asleep, or when my husband's doing his decompression stuff on his own. That's the time that I have. But our house is of a size that if I'm exercising, everyone's going to hear it in the house, even if it's a low impact thing. Anyone like opening a drawer in the kitchen, you can hear that throughout the entire house. It's just it's not a small house, but like according to American standards, it is on the smaller end. So I'm not going to risk waking up my kids. I'm also not going to risk busting my ass out on the ice trying to run around or trying to exercise. So I bought a gym membership. It's a $15 a month gym membership. So I figured that was pretty cheap, and for my sanity, I have to start exercising. So that's another expense going forward that I need to account for. So I have a decision to make, right? Looking at, I redid my estimated budgets for February, March, and April. And if I hit all of those saving goals for each month and make the $50 worth of interest from my high yield savings account, my total is going to be $19,959.74, which is about $375 shy of my top end goal for my total expenses based emergency fund. However, the new goal should really be an additional $330 to that, because I know I have this additional $55 a month of higher expenses for the 4 therapy copays and the $15 gym membership. That wasn't included when I ran those averages. So now my new top goal should technically be $20,661.92. So what do y'all think? I need your opinion. I need your help. Do I add an extra month to my challenge to give myself the opportunity to reach that new top goal based on the change in my expenses? Do I just kind of say F it and stick with the original goal, since, you know, all of this is just an approximation and arbitrary? A 6-month emergency fund, that is an arbitrary goal to set, right? So do I stick with the original goal? I'm not certain. I was super excited at the start of this challenge, and now I guess I'm feeling a little bit downtrodden about it. Like I said, I should be super excited about saving over $750 this month. And I am, but I'm also like still just really disappointed that it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out, and that now I know that there's really not much of a chance of me hitting that goal within the 4 months that I wanted to. So go down in the comments below. Let me know what you think I should do. Let me know what you would like to see me do. And yeah, sorry, I'm also just kind of bummed today because I've been getting, like, you know, my kids and my husband haven't been on their normal schedule, so that means I haven't been on my normal schedule. The world is seemingly falling apart, and just that's really been affecting my mental health. So I think this was just kind of one more thing that's made me a bit down. This is like literally my 3rd cup of tea today, so RIP sleep tonight. But it makes me feel better, and this mug makes me feel better too, right? Let's all admire it. Anyhow, hop down in the comments below. Let me know what you think I should do in regards to this no-buy challenge. I am definitely going to do the no-buy challenge to the end of April. It's still my goal to build up this 6-month emergency fund, because I have other savings goals that I'd like to work on after this. I just need to get to the point of the after this, right? If you want to follow along on the journey, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. I hope that you are safe and warm wherever you are, and I'll see you the next time. Bye.